I just first want to say, what is it that we just did here? Right? What's this have to do? This is about producing great thoughts at your desk. So what does this have to do? We actually learned 2 techniques that you can use the rest of your life to produce great thoughts. I use these techniques. I work, I've worked with, someone in the White House. I work with TV. I work with like all kinds of things. And the 2 techniques that you guys just used, I use every single day. There's not a day I don't use them. And so the first technique that you used was list making. I came out and I had you make a list. List making is an amazing ideation technique because it's so simple. It's simple, so you'll do it. If I gave you something complex to do, you wouldn't do it. Not because you're not smart enough, but you're too busy. So you would never do it. But you've been making lists since you were in first grade. You made lists of your favorite books, your favorite records, your favorite teams, your friends. And if you're like me, if someone pissed you off, you like took them off the list or you moved them down, on the thing. I still do that. No, at least it's very high up, right. But the key with list making as an ideation tool is this. This is something you may never have done before. You don't want to make just one list about the problem that you're focusing on. You want to make 3 or 5 or 10 or 15 different lists, each list looking at the problem or the challenge from a different angle. And when you fill out these lists, human beings are natural meaning-making machines. We make meaning, we connect things that don't necessarily go together automatically. You can't stop us from doing that. We see gaps in thinking, ideas come up, questions come up for us, all this stuff from making lists. So what kinds of lists should you make in tackling a problem? I would say, you can freestyle it. There's no set lists that you make, but lists that I make. So one list might be who's involved in this problem. And by the way, it reminds me of what Dave said, where he cascaded out, like where I said, who's involved in this problem. So I'll say, oh, okay, there's the obvious people, but then I'll start saying, oh, but so-and-so's involved too. I hadn't thought about that, blah, blah, blah. So like who's involved with the problem? What are the benefits would be another list. What are the roadblocks? What's the best advice I've ever heard on solving this problem? What's the worst advice I've ever heard on solving this problem? What's surprising about this problem? One of my favorites, what's obvious about the problem? Because sometimes when we look at a situation, we tend to bypass like the top level thinking stuff is too obvious. But I'm telling you, it's a miracle technique. When I work with clients, I'll say, they'll tell me about this problem. I'll say, tell me what's obvious about it, Dan. Tell me about it. And like they always come up with something important just from going to just normal stuff because it takes the pressure off them to be too smart. And their smartness just blossoms from the pressure being relieved, right? Other lists that I make, very important. Like what stories come to my mind when I think about this problem? Because often we're so much in this linear, logical, mathematical logic frame of mind. So I'm always like, oh yeah, what stories come to mind when I think of this problem? Or who solved this problem in other industries? And how did they solve it in other industries? Who solved this problem in my industry? And how did they solve it? So you make all these different lists. As a matter of fact, when I teach this to people, I actually suggest the first list you might want to make is a list of lists. The first thing is, you want to make some lists to look at the problem from different angles, right? So why don't you make a list of every possible list you could make? Just start writing them. You're not going to have to make all those lists. Just start writing them. So I write them all out, and I say, okay, pick 3 or 4 and start making those lists. And then you fill them out, you print them out, put them on front of the table in front of you, you like move them around looking at them, and you keep a yellow legal pad with you, and you say, what am I seeing here? And you look from item to item and list to list, and stuff just happens, right? Makes sense? So that's how I use list making to do like everything that I do. Just so that we see that, we see that this concept in, why don't we just do a little, is that me? Am I crackling? It's my charisma. Yeah, yeah.